welcome to the Kelly Roach Show, a place for no fluff, easy to implement, 20-minute or less business and leadership lessons to help you build a sustainable business that scales. Let's get started. So we have a super fun conversation planned for you all today. We're going to talk a little bit about innovation, skating to where the puck is going, and how community matters in the world of online education. I'm so excited to have with me here today Pat Flynn and Matt Gartland, his CEO, and they are going to be sharing a little bit about this new kind of innovative approach to online education that they're bringing. But before we go there, Pat, you have been there and done that in the online world. You are one of the OGs, right? Like, you've built this amazing career online. You've built a lot of trust with the market. You've kind of zigged in and out of different spaces. So I would love for you to tell just a little bit of your story and background. And then let's bring Matt in. How did you guys find each other? How did you come together with SPI Media? And then we'll talk a little bit about where things are going from here.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. And thank you to all of you for spending time with us today. My story starts in 2008, actually, during the Great Recession. I was on my way to becoming an architect. I got laid off. It's very tough. I didn't know what I was going to do. And that's actually where I discovered podcasts for the first time, because it was, free information. And there was a lot of people teaching online business. Some of them were better than others. And I found one that I really loved because they were very relatable. And these guys, Jeremy and Jason, were teaching online business through storytelling. And one of the stories they told was about a guy named Cornelius Fitchner, who was helping people pass the PM exam, or the project management exam. And I was in my car listening to this episode, and he was making 6 figures a year helping people pass an exam, but online. And remember, this is in 2008, and that was kind of different. Nobody was really doing this, but these guys were showcasing these stories. And I said, you know what? Wow, I've taken so many exams as an architect. Many of them were very, very hard, and there weren't a lot of resources online. And that's probably where things are going. So I wonder, might I be able to create a resource online for one of the exams? And that's exactly what I did. I created a website called Green Exam Academy. Green Exam because the exam was in particular about building green buildings and sustainable design and such. Very niche, right? A niche and a niche and a niche, essentially. Yeah. And this website, within a few months, started to rank really high in Google. And then eventually I published a study guide. And in October of 2008, with a $19.99 study guide, I had made $7,908.55. And that was 2.5 times more than what I was making as an architect. And I was like, this is wild. And I always thought the FBI was going to come and SWAT team me, because this just was not supposed to happen, right? It didn't feel real at all. And the cool part about it, and very much influenced by Tim Ferriss, who was writing the 4-Hour Workweek at the time, or who had just came out with it, it was I could build this business in a way that works on its own. It could serve an audience even while I'm sleeping, for example, and anybody around the world could purchase my study guide, and I could wake up in the morning and boom, there's more money in my PayPal account. And that just continued to grow and grow and grow. And many people around the time were like, Pat, how did you do this? Can you just tell us exactly what happened? So I built another website called Smart Passive Income, which is where most people know me from now, where I started teaching this stuff, and not teaching it like I knew everything, but teaching it like you were just kind of along the ride with me. Here's what's working. Here's what's not. Here's what I wish I'd done differently. And then I was also sharing how much money I was making and where it was coming from, which I think put me on the map because nobody else was doing that. Yeah. And that brand continued to grow from a blog to then a YouTube channel in 2009 to then a podcast in 2010. And the podcast is really what launched the business into the stratosphere, and all the relationships that were built from that. And then books came about. And then that's where Matt came in, because I had my very first book project in 2013 or 2012. It was in production. And Matt had a company that I could hire to help me edit this book. And I'll let Matt maybe pick up from here, but I really loved the way Matt did what he did. After we worked on that project together, I was like, Matt, we need to do more. And so I'll let Matt pick up from there.
Yeah, our stories were very almost serendipitous in terms of timing and other factors. So I had just left a corporate career, a 6-figure career, but it had always had that entrepreneurial drive within me. So probably maybe like a lot of folks listening, kind of trying to think about leaving something maybe safe and secure, or perceived to be that, and get into the entrepreneurial waters. But there's just so much opportunity online. So I started in the creator space, but on the services side. So started to build up a creativity agency, or a creative studio that then was working with authors and podcasters and writers and bloggers, even before the term creator came about, to kind of become sort of the all-in idea, right? and had started to develop a lot of relationships like, similar to Pat. And then, we crossed paths in 2012, started working on his first book project, Let Go, a really great memoir project. And we started to see like other opportunities, as Pat was just kind of teeing up there, for like how we could deliver story in different ways. Pat's story, sort of the broader story of folks that are starting to really learn and garner success through the teachings that Pat was delivering, through SPI. And it just spoke to me in terms of my own sort of spirit and my own kind of core values as an entrepreneur myself. So we just kept doing projects together, bigger projects. We got into, online courses. We took over producing the podcast. We helped out with some of the other niche projects like Food Trucker Pat, came along down the line. So we just kept doing more and more and kind of became thicker thieves, if you will, together. And then all the way to 2018, where it's like, holy heck, we became really close friends. We were doing so much together. Both companies kind of had grown pretty well, independently. But it's like, let's just tie the knot. Like, let's just go all in on the best thing that we have, which is each other. So that's what we did in 2018.
It's the most special relationship, like, obviously, besides like your life partner, right? Like you have your life partner and then you have like your person, right? Like to me, like Danielle Ceballos is like the president of, 3 of my companies. And that relationship, to be able to find that person that you can like be completely aligned with, challenge each other, ideate together, innovate together, disrupt, also correct each other, call each other out, be like, I'm calling BS. Like, no, we're not, right? It's so awesome that you both found that. And I love, Pat, that you are really looking to innovate the way that you are, because you had a wildly successful career online like years ago. I remember being a new entrepreneur and you were someone that was already very well established in the online space, having a lot of success with the podcast, with sponsorships, with affiliates. I love to see you stretching and innovating and exploring these new spaces. So talk to me a little bit about, like, I would love to hear a little bit about the process of how innovation works between the two of you guys and how you think about kind of zigging when everyone else zags. Because Pat, you did that with kind of, sharing income online. You did that with teaching affiliates the way that you did. No one was really doing that. When you came out with Smart Passive Income, like you almost introduced a whole new
like a genre.
Business. Yeah. It was really visionary what you were doing. And now you're looking to do that again. So I want to talk and explore and stretch a little bit around this idea of innovation, because I think a lot of people are scared to innovate. And yet if you don't innovate, you stagnate. And a lot of why people are struggling online right now is that they're saying and doing what everyone else is saying and doing. And therefore no one can tell them apart from anyone else. So let's talk about this idea of innovation. Like, I want to hear, like, how do you guys get down to it?
Yeah, thank you. And I do want to carry more of what you said about the partnership real quick, because we also celebrate together and we cry together. That's a really important part of the process as well, as I'm sure you know. But the
and is there a lot of cursing that goes on back and forth as well? Like, no, we're
not from Pat. Sometimes
no, it's usually both of us cursing at the same thing. Is what
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Not at each other.
Right.
But yes.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
No, the innovation is key, but it's interesting because when people tell me, Pat, like you were so novel in this, and I was like, was I? Like, I was just, maybe because I was approaching it from completely new on the outside, and just was like, to me, it was just so obvious why I should do that, why I should share my income. If people are going to be investing their time and potentially money with me, then I need to be fully upfront. Like when you invest in the stock market, companies give you a quarterly report to show you how they're doing, and so I was like, well, first principles. Let me go back to the raw basics. If I need people to trust me, then I need people to know all the things that are going on. So let me share all these things. And then it was just kind of almost, it took me aback, like, wow, Pat, this is amazing. Like, thank you for being so honest. And I was like, does that mean everybody else is not?
Right.
Okay. And then the other parts of this, like you said, if you just kind of stay stagnant, then you're not going to grow. You're not going to innovate. And for me, I actually have learned over the years that growth comes with discomfort. You have to push yourself outside of those boundaries of comfort. And I actually try to look for things that are challenging, that do make me have that feeling on the inside, like, oh my gosh, this could not work, or it might break, or it might ruffle a few feathers. But that's, again, where growth happens and where people start to talk about things, whether they work or not. It's always going to work in our favor because we're always going to keep getting up and keep going. Right.
That's it.
And that's exactly it, right? So the innovation also comes very important, not from what we think will work, but it's because of what we know the community needs.
Yes.
The beauty of the community that we've built and the audience that I've built over time is that I now have a direct connection with them. That trust comes along with that. We now have DMs and I'm reaching out to them and we're having conversations. And so the guesswork is no longer there. We're no longer guessing. We are putting things in the right order to hopefully best serve our audience, because that's what always drives our decisions. What best serves our audience? Our earnings are a byproduct of how well we serve our audience. So why not figure out what the audience wants and have conversations with them? That was another thing that when people told me, Pat, that's so innovative, I'm like, really? Because I have conversations with new email subscribers every single month. And people are like blown away by that. And I'm like, that again should be an obvious thing to do, because those are your people who are warm and you need to know what exactly is going through their mind and the language that they're using so that you can create something that actually makes sense. And that reduces the amount of inefficiencies, and it helps increase the how quick you can get to those results, which today people don't need the information as much anymore. Information is freely available everywhere. It's how quick they can get to that result and the community that can help them get there, and the encouragement, the accountability, et cetera.
Yeah, I want to unpack a couple things that you said there, and there were so many things going through my mind when you were saying that I can't even remember everything that you said. But I want to unpack a couple ideas that are very, very crucial for the listeners of the show here. You know, a lot of business owners really struggle creating things in a vacuum and then finding a lack of response or a lack of reciprocation from the audience, and it's because they are not speaking to human beings. This world of online marketing gives us massive accessibility and instant accessibility, but we've forgotten how to use it. Yeah. And you just brought up perhaps one of the most important business principles in terms of like ensuring your success out of the gate before you even like take a step. If you just talk to your people, like have conversations with the people. Why are you here? What do you want to learn? What are you looking for? What are you not finding in other communities that you're in? What were you disappointed in products that you've bought in the past? What were you hoping to find in this thing that you're investing in now? You know, I think that point that you just made about the fact that you talk to new email subscribers every single month and you're creating based on their feedback, it sounds like that's so simple. And yet I find that I think everything is so easy and so accessible now that for a lot of people, it's become hard because we've forgotten the basics. And that's one of those basic fundamentals in business. So I love that you shared that. And I think just it's a great reminder for everyone. I think that a lot of business owners have utilized tech and it's created a lot of barriers between them and people and human. And so they're not getting that direct feedback. And then they are guessing. They are making things up as they go without, feedback. And I think a lot of people think, oh, Pat Flynn, you have an audience of millions. Of course you can do this because you have this established brand. No, you can do that if you have 5 followers on social media. You can do that as you build a new social media account from nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love that you shared that. And it's the other point that you made was that what you're doing isn't novel. It's just listening to what people need and responding and creating it. But I think it's having the courage also to step outside of what you're already doing and being willing to create something new that there isn't necessarily a blueprint for. The other thing that is a double-edged sword is in this world that we live in, information is so accessible. Blueprints are so easy to get your hands on, models and formulas and coaches and structures that the same thing that's happening in the movies where all they're doing is reproducing movies that were already made. Yeah. That's what's happening in business, right? Instead of people saying, oh my gosh, this is a gap in the market. This is something that no one's addressing. I'm hearing this thing over and over again. Let me address it, which is exactly what you guys are doing, with this new work that you're creating. So I don't know, Matt, maybe you want to introduce a little bit of the new work that you guys are creating and what you're launching as we speak.
Yeah, it's in a great setup and segue. Thank you. We completely agree with so many of the points, especially from like a genuine business perspective, thinking about gaps in markets and thinking about defensible positions in terms of business strategy. Yeah. I'll add quickly before we talk about our new thing is that it's one thing to I guess, characterize like the freely accessible avalanche of information that's been building up online for years now. But it's also then like a weakening of the business models, right? Because that's just less defensible. And not just even the information, but like what the information represents, which is the expertise. Increasingly, people's expertise is less defensible and less in demand. At least that's like some of our kind of like, spicy opinion over here, right? Just because of the volume and the race to the bottom on price and all of these other components, when we kind of take an economic sort of, I would say, analysis, right, in terms of what's going on.
Zero barrier to entry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But what is more defensible, what is much, much harder to replicate, right? If we, again, just think almost in more pure business economics and MBA language, is community. And real community, not to be confused with audience building. Audience building is really important. And we've invested in that and continue to invest in that and we teach it. But those are, certainly broadcast-oriented messages and communications to build relationships, but largely like with Pat or like with me or like with the creator at the center of the brand.
Yeah. It's
not possible or it's not nearly as easy to create peer-to-peer relationships in the audience building space. So that's the primary difference with community. So with our ability to build real community and galvanize peer-to-peer relationships and be able to create private networks and to be able to facilitate learning development in pursuit of learning objectives, actual outcomes, and then be able to stack and compound those outcomes together within a guarded environment. Like I challenge anyone to be able to replicate how we're doing it. They can build it for themselves and then that's unique for them, but they're never going to be able to replicate our magic, right? Inside of our like SPI Pro community. So that's a bit maybe of an extended leadway to what we're doing. But in terms of our innovation, we're building very intentional community first products. Our company now has taken this big strategic shift driven by vision, Pat and me together, to be like, we are a community company. We're going to create community products. These are the things that we sell and sell proudly because our members that choose to invest in us, they're investing in their own value back, right? Because of what we can deliver. So the All Access Pass is this new thing that we're doing. And it's a hybridization of our, gosh, Pat, what's it been? Since 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
16, 17, with our premium online courses. So our education, which is still really valuable, really relevant, but now we're able to directly infuse community-based engagement and community building and peer-to-peer study groups and accelerator events, right? That sort of
Do we lose Matt there?
Really thrilled.
Just repeat that last little. We'll just skip it. Just repeat that last.
So sorry about that. So our All Access Pass, is this hybridization of our premium and very successful education products with community, and we invite then folks that are getting started with their entrepreneurial journey and want to accelerate through it, at different points in that journey into what we call pathways that are curriculum focused but with learning outcomes. And we believe very strongly that this is like where the puck is going, to go back to that framing in terms of how people want to study and gather and learn together online in pursuit of real results and real outcomes.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. And Pat, I would love to ask you when you think about, Matt, you mentioned the distinction, right, between audience building and community building. When you think about those distinctions, Pat, what would you say are like the pillars or the distinctions where you would really separate those two?
Yeah, I mean, experience is number one. I wrote a book called Superfans that's all about creating experience within a brand, the experience that now from within can be shared and bring new people in from the inside, right? And having those magical moments within. And so the difference here with the All Access Pass is, before it was like, the equivalent would be like handing a textbook over to somebody and saying, hey, here's all the information.
Right.
Good luck. Like, go get it. And that, as you know, as a student and somebody like who's gone through high school and college, it's like, that's not a great way to learn. Right. And that's not going to motivate you, especially if there's like no grade at the end of the year for you to motivate you to get into college or something. Right. Versus what we're doing is like, hey, here is the library that you have access to. But before you go and dive into any one of those books, let's figure out where you're at first. And then let's tell you which 4 books you need to consume and in what order. And by the way, here's a whole bunch of other people who are literally the same place that you are. And you all can support each other and we'll guide you and we'll facilitate. But the magic is not just in what's in the books anymore. The magic is in people together reading the same books together. It's the difference between reading a book by yourself and then going to a book club and having the ability to have somebody else open up your mind to something. Exactly.
Yes,
like, oh, I didn't read that in that paragraph. I love the way you frame that. Now it's more memorable. Now you're more likely to go through it because it's the same thing, like going to the gym by yourself versus going with a friend who's there to call you at 5 a.m. because they're waiting for you outside. You're going to get up and go to get them, right? So we're trying to create that sort of feel within the online business space. You know, there's so many analogies here. It's like going to the restaurant to eat by yourself, and maybe it's like buffet style. Okay, that's one thing. Or you go to this restaurant, you sit down, there's people you could talk to, share stories with each other. And then we are here as Team SPI to serve you different dishes in a very specific order. And the different courses created an experience along the way. And now we know we're going to get better Yelp reviews on the restaurant segment of Yelp because of that, right? So, I mean, this just makes sense. And we've micro tested this. We have built communities before. And we have also run cohort-based courses, which are more intensive, right? Like 2 times a week, coming on for 2 hours each week and going through it that way. This is sort of the best of both worlds, where you can still work through these things asynchronously. Different people have different schedules and aren't able to always make those live things, but just knowing you have access to people like us and people like you is really where the magic is happening. And this is, I mean, we've put time, money, we've hired specifically for this. And we want to set the example for other educators online to show how one can put community and courses together. This is what we're calling community powered courses. We didn't coin that term, but we're there. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that is super exciting. And it's great. It's absolutely the next evolution for sure. I mean, I think that, first of all, psychologically, there's so much research just around entrepreneurship, 100%. Belonging, isolation, desire for connection, all of those things. And it's also saying that not only is that such a great need that's not being met, but also on the flip side, people are feeling that the more that they're connected online, they're actually feeling more disconnected. So it's actually worsening. So I think the fact that you're leading the charge with creating connection with people that are investing in themselves, that have this common interest, that want to learn and grow. And then it's elevating that learning experience. And like you said, kind of like the book club, like where you challenge each other, you ask questions, you have dialogue. It takes something that was already meaningful and powerful, but it really helps the person to understand it and to implement it and to get bigger and better results from it. But I think it also serves a really important human need. Not just an educational need. I think it's going to make a really big difference for people on their journey. Right.
Oh, absolutely. And the economics of this are amazing as well, you know, because we sell our individual online courses, the DIY, like the textbook, for like $499. And we've sold over $5 million of online courses since 2017. Yeah. But now, instead of just the one course you can get on your own, you can get access to the All Access Pass, which gives you access to 17 different courses and workshops. But again, not all at the same time. We will guide you through. You have access to a community now. You have access to us and support for $59 a month. That's what we're starting with for our founding members price. So the barrier to entry is lower. And yes, we're quote unquote losing money up front, you know, $499 versus $59. But the idea being, there's going to be so much more value here that eventually that monthly payment will surpass what we could have made as a one-time payment, because people will come for the content, but then stay for the community as we often hear. So 1,000%.
And not only that, I mean, I've been talking a lot on the show about, you know, with the change of the economic cycle and the change that's transpired in 2022, like having an internal buyers list of people that know, like, trust, and have already bought from you is the most important thing going into this next cycle. Like, you can sell anything in large scale if you have enough people that have bought a lower ticket thing and had an over the top experience, right? And then you can, once you have people that are, you know, doing this all access pass, I mean, they're going to enjoy the experience. They're going to get results from it. They're going to love the community. But guess what? The two of you are innovators. And 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, as you're up leveling and releasing new things, all of these people are going to want to come with you. They're going to want to be a part of whatever you do next. So it's not just like the economics of now, but I think the economics of what it does for the brand is massive, and just being thoughtful about experience.
Kelly, that's fantastic. If I can chime in on that further, I think it's really interesting to see how, at least in our opinion, how the KPI changes when we think about these different ways to connect with people and serve them and educate with them. With online course sales, because largely historically these are one-time purchase events, right? Sort of as a decision point for a consumer, and maybe there's some post-education experiences. We try to invite them into a student group on Facebook or something like that. The driving KPI is just how many units can we sell, right? Okay, traditional launch model. Maybe we have some JV partners to try to, amplify, the reach. And then it's like, okay, cool. How many units can we sell? Because that's driving of the revenue figure. But with this different approach, this different, fundamentally different product type, we think about lifetime value, right? Because these are recurring revenue-based products for the company.
Yeah.
And there is, in our opinion, a very strong symmetry between like the LTV for us and the LTV, if you will, for them. If they can get value out of, the first few months of going through, some of our pathways and get results and grow and develop more confidence, then they're going to stay with us and they're going to continue to learn and grow and develop their own, success or balloon that, right? So it's a really interesting way, I think, to like shift the headspace to think about, what are we really trying to even measure and what is our definition of success economically speaking? And we're very much rooted in lifetime value, more than just like units.
You guys are speaking my language. This is like my jam right here. I'm loving it. It's what's needed. It's great. Sorry, go ahead, Pat.
No, it's okay. I get really excited about this stuff, and the beauty of this, especially with longer and lifetime value, much higher, because of those experiences you're creating. You don't need a huge community to make this amazing, right? You don't need 1 million followers, subscribers. You don't even need 1,000. Like even just a core group of people who now you go deeper with, right? Even in our first community that we created, SPI Pro, which was our first take at community and how to, learning all the ins and outs about it and mastering that. Instead of let's figure out how to get more people into it, how do we even better serve the people who are in there? And as you'll find with any community, there's going to be sub communities within that community who might need more of you or a different side of you. And so Matt has taken the charge and led what's called the MBA program in SPI Pro, which is for an invite-only group. And of course, we charge a lot more for that, but people are getting even more value, direct access to Matt, not just about like podcasting, affiliate marketing, email marketing, but literally predictable business models and the legal stuff and the admin stuff and the stuff that Matt's so great at to help a business become even more clean and proper and future proof. So you again, with the same people who had already paid, to your point earlier, your best customers are your existing customers, and instead of going 10 miles wide, 1 inch deep, we go 1 inch wide, 10 miles deep with them. And there's likely even more opportunity for us if we wanted to do in-person events for these people and, rent out an Airbnb somewhere and mastermind in person and charge a lot more for that, but create an even heightened experience from there with literally the same group of people. Exactly.
No, the sky's the limit. And I found too, over the course, and I mean, I'm sure you see this as well, Pat, but part of the fascination, I think, of people when they come into our communities and like link with our brand is they enjoy watching your evolution and how you're leading as much as they enjoy the learning. So as you then begin to expand upon that experience for them and extend that community and the way that you're engaging with them, people will want to continue forward with you because they're like, he's doing what now? Right? Like, I want to be there for that. I want to experience that. But I've never been huge into the traditional course model where people are like passively going through education. I obviously teach and sell very high ticket, very high touch. But as the economy started to shift, we started doing, more like on-demand education, but with a human element. I have a big team, and we found this year that like 85 to 90% of our high ticket salespeople coming in between 30 and 100,000 a year came from people that bought a low ticket course, but we just added a little bit of human touch to like emphasize the community and keep them progressing through. So I think what you're doing with what you're creating here, I think it's going to be massively helpful for the whole digital creator community, because I think a lot of them are getting really stuck because they've been taught, like you said earlier, Matt, they've been taught to focus on units. And so they sell units. But the problem is lots of those units that they sold, no one ever completes the course material. They don't really know anyone. They're not talking to anyone. There's no community. There's no human touch. And you're kind of shifting that whole conversation to where it's like, look at every sale that you're making through that lens of lifetime value, which I think is the most important metric anyway. But I love that you're shifting that whole conversation. I think it's not just the people that are learning from you. I think the people engaging and interacting with the brand that are digital creators themselves are really going to gain a business education by you sharing this new model with the world. So I give just a lot of kudos to you guys for that, because I think it's really, really going to help a lot of businesses that are kind of getting stuck in that trap, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. Another element here is just the responsibility. I think that, Pat and I feel it, and our entire team feels, to lead by example, as we always have. So like, if we didn't do this, like, at least on some part of the spectrum here, it's like, my gosh, like, we're not representing what we know to be true, at least what we feel to be true, in terms of what is the future and how can, first time online entrepreneurs, or even those that have been successful in the past, but maybe are trying to, do, their next new thing. Like, if we're not embodying the change that we see and we feel is necessary, then we're not living into that side of the responsibility, because we exist to serve.
For sure. So let me ask you guys, share just, for everyone that's listening to the show today, that obviously they're going to want to check out what you guys are doing. Like, where do they go? Number one, where do they learn more about it? Number two, and then why don't you just share a little bit of kind of with the all access pass, like what some of the learning experiences are that they would get with the all access pass.
Thank you for that, Kelly. I appreciate it. We're not here to sell your audience on this, but if you want to see how it's going and see how it works, and if you're interested, awesome. smartpassiveincome.com/all access will take you there. And you can see how we set this up, how we position it, and how we talk about it, and how, how it serves the audience. And you're welcome to, borrow and get inspiration from that for your own community as well. So smartpassiveincome.com/all access. But in terms of like what happens there, the pathways that Matt was talking about is really what's key, because it would be one thing to just, and this has been common before, a person who has a library of courses just saying, hey, you can get access to all of our courses now for this, large price. And it's like, okay, that's cool. And there's some savings there. But then again, if the student is still left to their own devices, that's actually worse. It's overwhelming. Now there's even there's too many options, right? Which is why the pathways and the guided experience is really what's key. So let's say you come in and you find out that you are literally just a starter. Cool. Well, you want to start with our course, Smart from Scratch, which is going to help you nail your niche and define your audience. Then from there, you go into build your brand. That allows you to build your website and start to, create some real estate online, your social media accounts, et cetera. And then the traffic building workshop to use just one or two strategies of the library of strategies in that workshop to start to just build awareness to what you're doing, whether it's podcast guesting. Okay, cool. Go through that module inside of the traffic. So you can see how it like takes you on this journey. If you find that you already have a business and you want to amplify that through podcasting, well, then you go down the podcasting pathway. You start with what is our most popular course, which is Power Up Podcasting. And then you can go into podcast advertising made easy. If you want to turn this into a video podcast, there's a workshop for that. And there's like, again, that pathway. There's specifically a monetization pathway. So cool. You have an audience already. And there's rules like, hey, if you don't yet, then this particular pathway is, like you haven't yet unlocked this yet. And currently we don't have it such that you have to complete these things before these things open, but these experiences are sort of mapped out for people. But in the monetization section, cool. We teach you how to create online courses with heroic online courses, or perhaps affiliate marketing is the way you want to go. And we have a course for that. One course that's sort of inserted throughout most of the pathways is our email marketing magic course, which is very important because, as you know, and as I'm sure your audience knows, email is very much a power source for the business that you might have. So that's just an example of what it's like in there.
I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate it's really, I love getting people on the show that are thinking deeply about how they can be change leaders and make a difference in the world, make tons of money doing it too. But like, I love the conviction of being the change in the space and leading the change with what you're doing. I think it's super exciting. I think it's going to make a big difference for a lot of people. I'm sure it's super fulfilling to be moving forward on this path. So appreciate you guys. It was really awesome having you here. Any final Any final pieces of advice or words of wisdom you want to share before we wrap up here today?
From my side is that, well, Kelly, first, just thanks for the opportunity to be here and kind of just tell the stories and try to serve others. And that I think how it's kind of been popped up from time to say is like anyone can do this. Like you can't start with community. It is about, even one of your original points that I love, it's about just talking to people, and have like a genuine conversation. And these are important life skills as much as they are business skills. So like if the sense of community as a business driver is, sounds appealing to folks out there, just like start talking to people that you already have relationships with. It's a part of your audience, and it doesn't have to be 1,000 or 10,000 people. So I think that's great.
For sure. Love that. Thanks.
For me to finish up, and again, Kelly, thank you so much for having us here today to talk about this. We're really excited about it, obviously. When we launched our first community in 2020, SPI Pro, we ran a survey. And this survey was like, hey, what are you hoping to get out of your experience here at SPI Pro? And the thing that people wanted the least, like I think it was 4 or 5% of people even marked this as something they would ever want inside of SPI Pro, was more content. Mm-hmm. People don't need more content. They want experience. They need connection. And anybody can create a safe space for people to come together. And the beauty is, yes, in initially, it's going to take work. It's going to require active work to build the space in a way that is welcoming and makes people feel safe to share. But eventually, you can get to the point where, almost like running a restaurant, you can be the owner with all the right team, all the right tables, plates, silverware, menu items, that the restaurant just runs on its own. Yeah. And you can just go around and welcome people and make them feel special while everything else is happening. And that's the end game. And we're grateful to be there here and to even create new experiences with All Access. And it's exciting. I'm so excited. This is a new era.
You guys are doing great work. Really excited to be a part of it. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Of course, we'll put all the links in the show notes. Make sure you follow Pat and Matt online, Pat Flynn, obviously. And thank you guys for being here. It was a great conversation, and excited to see you bring this to the world and make a big difference with it.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks for amplifying it for us. Appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Reagan. You can